Possible first and third, 2 out. Oh, field! Number 70!
McGwire came clean and admitted he did use steroids.
Immersive sports science, content not commentary, sports science, not bro science. We review sporting popular media and expand upon the sports science. I scored Long Gone Summer a 94.75, and here's why. I was mentioning that I possibly use my hands a wee bit too much. So what I'm going to try and do, see how long I can last with a bit on my back. Long Gone Summer is an ESPN documentary about the baseball home run record of the 1998 season, mainly looking at the race between Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. This show looked at the race between Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa as they looked to break Babe Ruth's home run record. And then after they broke the record, the subsequent race, the guys with the most amount of home runs in Major League Baseball. Yeah, sorry about that with the arms, guys. I didn't really last that long. I know a lot of you can make a joke about she said that now. Long Gone Summer focused the story in an almost linear timeline, focusing on the stories that were present at the time. At the beginning, mainly featuring Mark McGwire and a little bit about Ken Griffey Jr, who were thought to be the pre-season hopefuls to beat Maris's modern era record for home runs. Later on in the documentary, they focused more on Sosa as he himself got more home runs. They also gave an in-depth profile on both Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, their life, their history, etc. And they also focused on key points in the story of the season for both guys in their attempt to get the record, before doing a depart about doping. Round 2. No arm challenge. When it comes to goal settings, there are many different ways one can actually utilize, or different types of goals we can use. The main one is smarter goals.
I would set goals and I would write down these numbers of what I wanted to accomplish. And I would put it in my safe in my home in Southern California, and I wouldn't look at it until the season's over with.
Now likewise, and I really want to use my arms, you can split goals into short, medium and long-term goals. Focus is one mind, and by breaking up a massive goal, you can in fact give yourself a little like a ladder to climb up, so to speak. So you have this vast goal, the number of home runs in a season, and then you want to go, let's try and get to this number, and then let's not think about the record until we get to 50 home runs in the season. And that's exactly what Mark McGwire did.
Until somebody gets to 50 by September, then it's a legitimate thing to talk about. But right now, I don't think there is.
But in terms of Sammy Sosa, he will just wanted to have fun and see how far and what he can do. And yes, you could argue that he was looking at every game and that was his stepping stone, so to speak. But you could also argue that he was just trying to live in the moment. And as a result, that helped to amplify and improve his performance. The documentary was keen to talk about the pressure based from the media itself.
It's not can the player do it, but can they withstand the pressure?
If you're surrounded by the media, that can be a negative to performance and can lead to depression, especially when they're just everywhere and you just can't move through any of them.
Lots of people have been ahead of Babe Ruth or Roger Maris's pace to a certain point in the season.
But likewise, most people perceive stressors differently. The way people respond, cope and adapt to those stressors is individual also.
And if you don't perform that night, 25 reporter was there, why you don't hit the home run today? Mr. Sosa was close behind.
Yeah, all the pressure was on me. I remember being swarmed, reporters like in a circle around me. Like, God, I feel like a caged animal.
For me, I enjoy it. I was, the new kid on the block. I cannot be more happy, but everybody's different.
Sammy would interview a ham sandwich or let a ham sandwich interview him. He liked the attention. Mark wanted to play baseball.
By not having a space for yourself, it can be mentally draining.
It's 162 games in 185 days. Think about that. It's every day. You foul a ball off your shin at 95 miles an hour, you stay in the game, you play the next day.
We're always taught to play through pain. Can't make the lineup that day. because of a little aches and pains, you never hear the end of it.
First half's easy because you're fresh. And in baseball, they call it the dog days of summer. And you're wore out.
It's going to be 68. You got it, baby.
Documentary also briefly touched on the role of the sports psychologist and the fact that it's not just there to fix something, it's a vital part of sports science. All roles in sports science state they are vital.
I can't play tomorrow, man. I can't not write you in there tomorrow, because after everything that you've done, the sacrifices, the hardships, the biggest mistake you'll regret the rest of your life. I can't do it.
Psychology, alongside sports biomechanics and sports physiology, is considered one of the 3 pillars of sports science. Yet again, in terms of psychological support or even minor support, we can get these from our friends, family, coaches and relatives, as long as we have someone to help to support us mentally with our performance, but also our general well-being. Increasing happiness and well-being can also help to increase performance.
I decided to see a psychologist just to try to figure out who I am as a person. Peeling all these layers, how can I take that and move it into my mind as an athlete?
He became a guy who could really zero in, focus, and block out.
There had been an interesting development in the late 90s and early noughties in the fact that many of the baseball players were now trying to bulk up, preferring to get more upper body strength, where previously it was thought that going into the gym and trying to build yourself up, develop that areas would be detrimental performance. But now the opposite was happening. It's seen as the best way to optimize the performance in order to hit the ball harder.
This enormous sediment of numbers that enables you to compare Tris Speaker to Joe DiMaggio. You wondered if you could still do that because something had changed, and we know what changed it. It was chemistry.
From these situations, many of the players, through the use of the bodybuilders they saw around them, were introduced to doping.
I mean, for the most part, steroids then were coming out of the gyms. It was what guys did in the off season.
These ideas, thoughts and feelings weren't that highly sophisticated at the time. However, many of them did get away with taking things like steroids. For instance, Mark McGwire stated that he took steroids in order to help with his recovery. He also took T boosters. Now, I'm not a personal expert on that kind of thing. In terms of testosterone boosters, I think the vast majority of them are pathetically useless. They do very little to induce it. However, if you want more information about that kind of thing, go to THD channel, which is a Dutch guy. He's very knowledgeable on that subject. But please be safe and careful. Do not take these substances, as they are untested in human beings and have shown to be potentially harmful.
We don't know everyone who was or wasn't doing what was rampant.
Your performance affects everybody on your team. So if you're not doing everything you can, you're letting down everybody else in that clubhouse.
This situation does raise an interesting point. Whether the drugs harm the sport, or whether it's the notion of being caught and those cheating, those who are taking drugs, actually harms the sport.
Asking me or any other player to answer about who took steroids will not solve the problem. Player answers no, he simply will not be believed. If he answers yes, he risks public scorn.
Steroids have made it to baseball's banned substance list in 1991. However, testing for major league players did not begin until the 2003 season. Balco was a lab-based company originally set up by Victor Conte, who was a self-taught biologist meets chemist, which was enhanced when he teamed up with the rogue Illinois chemist Patrick Arnold. Balco had becoming heavily involved in baseball. Arnold created a wide range of substances that, when used in a cycle, could go relatively undetected by drug testing, even on the Olympic level. This was hiding illegal substances from testers is known as masking agents, which are now banned under WADA rules.
And how did that meeting happen? Did he approach you?
He approached me. We was away in Miami. When I told the story, I say it was like a genie. He just literally popped out of nowhere. And you hear stories about this, but you never actually believe it. And that's exactly how it happened.
Really?
Just literally popped out of nowhere with a bag in his hand. I was taken on board by him because he probably I felt as though he became more of a father figure to me.
Right.
Yes, I grew up with my stepfather, but it just wasn't the same. The relationship with me and him just clicked.
Really?
And we got on really well. And I was able to speak to him in ways I was never able to speak to him at any of my fathers. It just helped to have someone there to speak to about my situation.
What did he say to you? Did he say you won't get caught?
Well, I was led to believe that, firstly, he assured that what was taken was undetectable. So,
right.
There was no way of us ever getting caught. So that, again, played on my mind for a while. But then after I'd passed numerous tests, then I thought, okay, I'm in the clear. You literally have a syringe, but it's minus the needle. So you're not injecting anything whatsoever.
So how do you get it into your body?
You droplets under your tongue.
No collectively bargaining rule between the players and the owners that would ban it.
Commissioner, he'll say he just wasn't aware of the extent of the problem. There were whispers. He would bring it up from time to time and there would just be silence. Hey, the game is bouncing back. Don't rock the boat.
And I say there's a distinction between criminality or morality and authenticity. There are plenty of people in sports who have done things worse on a societal basis than taking performance-enhancing drugs. And on the other hand, some of those who took performance-enhancing drugs are among the nicest people you'd ever meet. So we're in a very murky area if we try to say, well, this guy did steroids and he's a bad human being. Or so-and-so, when I was a kid, never would have taken steroids. How do you know?
To think we're going to go back into history and figure out how to assign blame.
This naturally put the record into doubt. The integrity of that record. The record wasn't natural necessarily. So can that record count? And this conflict of cultures and personalities and ideas has been shown more recently. Barry Bonds' record and how Barry Bonds has been treated compared to someone like Mark McGwire. In an era where most people were doping, to an era now where doping is seen as unacceptable in Major League Baseball.
But I say flatly and with complete assurance that the statistics and in some cases the records of people who are known juicers are inauthentic.
Now, if you want to know more about the theories of doping, integrity, the protectionism of the athlete, and naturalism of the sport, I recommend watching this video here. But likewise, in the 90s, testing of the baseball players was very poor. It's changed somewhat since it tried to bid to become an Olympic sport, and Major League Baseball has jumped on that bandwagon since then. And because of the scandal that came out, baseball players simply were not being tested in the 90s, even though really they should have been.
If it's legal, do it. That's just smart. That's not stupid.
Many of them were receiving products that they quite frankly or simply did not understand what they were. And in those days, the locker rooms were open. The press used to come in, they used to interview the tabloids and the sporting media, especially in America, where the sporting media can be quite local as well.
McGwire disclosed that for more than a year, he used a legal testosterone-producing strength booster called androstenedione.
Regarding the T-booster, this only came to light because one guy from the newspaper took a photograph of what was on his shelf and noticed this was on his shelf. In by his locker. The locker was open. Everyone had an understanding, or a rough understanding, of what supplements everyone was taking. Everyone had their supplements with them, which is probably a silly idea in my opinion. And as Sammy stated, doping was potentially widespread during this period. In terms of legal supplements, everyone roughly knew what each other guy on their team was taking. Yeah, in theory. There was also a small amount of biomechanical analysis of each swing. Mark McGwire was well known for having a compact, short swing that was incredibly powerful. And I mean, look at the guy's brachioradialis in its forearm. It's freaking hench.
He had this beautiful, quick, natural swing. Steroids didn't create that. Could he have hit 62? Yeah, I think he could have hit 62.
However, sadly enough, there wasn't as much of a in-depth analysis of Sammy Sosa's swing when compared to Griffey Jr. within this documentary, which is strange because it has been well documented that Sosa made massive biomechanical changes to his swing during the 1998 season. With a guy who makes up a good 40 to 50% of the storyline, you would have thought they would have had much more detail on this. The use of colouring and filters made the film look like the 90s. It gave it that feel. The use of graphics were very baseball and also helped to add to that feel. Chronicles MM Mark McGwire and SS Sammy Sosa to be the home run Major League Baseball record holder of the modern era within the 1998 season. Directed by A.J Schnack, he did well to keep consistent. When you find that you are filming two guys who are great personalities, it can be easy just to heavily focus on one. If you like, they make love to the camera. and you just focus on having a Parmenion effect. And he did well to keep these guys within balance, especially as both of them are larger than life characters, which therefore sells it well over to the viewer watching. The graphics worked well. They gave you these 90s feel, pretty similar to Tiger Woods' Bat did. Although Tiger Woods' Bat, their graphics was a little bit more Spartan and a little bit more subtle in their use. In terms of some of the titling graphics, the lower thirds, they gave you that baseball feel. They had that traditional baseball-ness about them. This linear story, starting from just before the beginning of the 1998 season, allowed you to build up, made you wonder, especially as someone who's not a baseball fan, like myself, who will get this record, and engaged you further with it, with some analysis from the outside that emphasized and helped to improve your knowledge as you watched along. It married well with what the main guys, Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, and those surrounding them were saying. With talking head documentaries, it can be easy to just get the big names in, and those guys not actually aiding what's being stated. Everything you do has to marry within that story in order to tell the story. Comparing this to the others within the 2020 30 for 30 documentary series, we followed them to the latter in terms of the style, but likewise, they're all teeny weeny bit different. And that's what so much I love about this 30 for 30 series. All in all, I give ESPN's 30 for 30 Long Gone Summers a score of 94.75.